deals across multiple states, expert in owner finance wrap strategies, and he's founder of Operation Freedom. So Brandon's got a lot going on, and without further ado,
Across
Brandon,
multiple states.
go ahead and give us your story.
Okay. Yeah. Again, my name is Brandon Richards. I've been in real estate just about 10 years now. I started a little backwards, some would say. Organically speaking, I thought it was the right way to go. I went, at the time I was owner operator of a carpet cleaning company, and I knew zero about real estate. So Google searched real estate, and I thought the obvious entry was going to be to become a realtor. I thought realtors just knew the ins and out of the real estate world and every capacity there is, but quickly discovered that wasn't the case. Started out Century 21. Nobody was doing anything on the investment side, and quickly found a new brokerage. Anyways, long story short, I got the license first, and partnered on some JV wholesale deals. My very first wholesale by myself, direct to seller and buyer, was a home run. I made a ton of money there, and I knew that was the route to go. And then the very next mail campaign, I contracted my first flip. The buyer of that wholesale funded my flip for me, and I was off to the races. I flipped a bunch of houses since then, somewhere north of 70, wholesaled hundreds of them. And along the way, I've explored various avenues of real estate, everything from small apartments, storage facilities, owner finance, and my current niche, which I likely will stay in for quite some time, is land. I buy land off market, direct to seller, and my desired exit is selling those properties owner finance to retail buyers. And my my approach to land is a little bit different than what most people are teaching on the internet right now. Most people will say that wholesaling land is the route to go. I don't like it. I've never been a huge fan of wholesaling. It's an entirely different branch of business that I never found to be very fun. It's not risky per se, but building an entire new buyer database that you have to rely on to do all the right things, almost in a sense on your behalf to get paid, is not how I like to operate. So what I do is I buy what I consider staycation land. And what that means is basically I don't want my end buyer to ever pay me off. I want that note to go to full amortization. So I look in areas where people want to put an RV, throw up a tent, maybe build a small tiny home, or at some point they might build. But I'm in areas where the end buyer doesn't necessarily want or have the ability to build. So that keeps my note paying. So what I mean by that is I buy land near national parks, big popular lakes. So where I first started doing land was in Arizona. And so I lived in Flagstaff. I was 2 hours north of Phoenix. And that 2 hour difference is about, on any given day, somewhere between 20 and 40 degree temperature difference. So when Phoenix is 110 degrees, people want to be where I was at. And where I'm at, there's a small area just north of us we all know as the Grand Canyon. Well, everybody wants to go to the Grand Canyon. Everybody wants to be in cooler weather. So I started buying acre lots super cheap, somewhere between about 14 and 18,000. And I was selling those between 50 and $65,000 on terms. And those notes, depending on down payment and length of amortization schedule, pay me somewhere between 480 and 1,200 bucks a month. And so I love it. I mean, I've owned, like I said, just a little bit back, I've owned duplexes, triplexes, single families, apartments. And while those all are great and have various huge tax benefits, the headache of screening tenants not paying, having to call contractors. I was flipping, when I first started flipping houses, I went from one to 5 to 10 flips at a time pretty quickly. And the nightmare of managing, most importantly, the money of flipping that many houses at a time, but the contractors constantly flaking and getting screwed, and this coming, you know, problem after problem after problem. So it was like, I love real estate and I know real estate, but what's next? And so I had briefly learned the owner finance way in the beginning, but I was convinced by several people that wasn't the route to go. And by happenstance, about COVID time, I bought a parcel, an acre for $18,000, and I planned on putting a brand new double wide on there. But everybody knows in COVID, nothing was happening in a timely fashion. And so as I'm waiting and constantly getting pushed by the manufacturer for my house to show up, which eventually showed up 15 months later, 13 months late, right? I sold that $18,000 parcel for $55,000 in a week. And I was like, oh, I might have something here. I just made what I expected to make in a 4 to 6 month time frame with my double wide in a week with this land. So I sold that land, I bought a new one, I ended up placing the coming property, and I made about 40,000 where I made about 40,000 on the land before. So I was like, oh, I guess there's something to this land. So I did it again and it worked. And I did it again. And since then, dozens and dozens of transactions later, I like land. I don't call contractors. I don't deal with the typical emotional uh, conundrum from sellers. Typically, some people are attached to land for a variety of reasons, but it's not the same thing as a house or a house that's occupied with tenants or whatever the case is. So I just deal with half the stress. And then another key factor was when I was doing flips and placing double wides in northern Arizona, for every single property, I was raising somewhere between 250 and $500,000. That can be a lot, especially the burden of the interest and carry cost versus land. Now that I'm in Alaska, I can buy a piece of property somewhere between 3,000 and 100,000, and the carry cost is substantially less. The risk is substantially less, and I'm buying at 30, 50% of market value. So my risk um, has gone substantially down, and my risk tolerance is quite high. I've done a lot of things in real estate, and I've settled on land because it's not easy, but it's the most stress-free. And when you sell on terms, it's the most passive form of income you can create in real estate, aside from being a contributor or an LP in a syndication. And those, as we know, are incredibly risky depending on who the operator is, right? So I have settled on land. The downside being is my tax advantages are very low. My I'm taxed a little bit differently because of there's no the capital gain aspect of it is chopped down substantially. But as I build this land portfolio, the intention is to go back and do apartments. But right now, I'm just stuck in land. I like it.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's exactly. I feel the same way about the owner finance, and I tell people all the time that the truest form of passive income is through the owner finance type model.
Right.
And I've done it for 20 years, finance properties like that. Never done, done some land, but done a lot of houses and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Wraps, land contracts, promissory notes, deed of trust, do, a lot of different avenues.
Yeah, I've never done land contracts or rent to own. I've been deed of trust states, so it's just always promissory note, deed of trust. And moreover, I don't get the tenant phone calls, right? When I did my very first note, it was on a single wide mobile home in Podunk, Texas. Bought it for 15, sold it for 44,000, whatever it was. And about a month in, she called and says, "Hey, Brandon, my water heater isn't working." And I felt bad. I was like, "I'm sorry. I'm the bank. That's a you problem, unfortunately." And that was a switch in my mind. It's like, hell yeah, I can do anything I want and not have to worry about phone calls coming in from tenants, right?
Right.
So it's been a pretty cool ride. And a lot of people think uh, real estate in general is illiquid, capital wise, but with notes, you have so many options to recoup capital if you need or want to. You can sell the entire note, you can sell portions of the note. Um, there's a lot of creative ways to run your business in the owner finance note world. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those tenant calls are tough. I had a call just the other morning, and they're crazy calls too. You just
Yeah.
never know. And so this call is like my property manager calls and says, "Hey, man, uh, the house is, such and such. We got squirrels in the attic.
Mhm. Could be a small issue or a giant issue.
And I'm like, okay, we got squirrels. Yeah, man. So they chewed a hole through the soffit outside and they're in the attic and it sounds like they're playing straight bass upstairs, freeze tag.
That's funny because a memory came up on my Facebook today from 2019 when I was still doing houses. And, one of the things you look at in your walkthrough with the seller is you're looking for water damage. And so I look in the ceiling and it looks like a substantial amount of water damage. So I go up in the attic, try to figure it was. It's either the AC or a roof leak, right? It was rodent pee. There was so much raccoon pee in the attic that it was seeping through the drywall and it looked like there was water damage. And so it's funny
Man,
correlation there.
Yeah.
man, I've been in a few raccoon houses. I went in a house one time. I'm telling you, there were so many raccoons in this house that all that was in there was raccoon crap. That was
Yeah.
the whole house. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, man, it's crazy. The things house is that one of the main reasons? Like other like did you get tired of just going to a bunch of nasty houses all the time? Because I do. I get tired of that, Brandon.
Mm, I kind of enjoyed it. I like seeing weird and odd things. I'm one of the biggest reasons I moved to Alaska is I like exploring. I like going into the outdoors. And I grew up with my mom, and she likes old abandoned buildings. So as a kid, we would go into old barns and old houses that were abandoned, and it's always been fun to me. Um, and I find it so much fun that I used to go live a lot back when I was doing a lot of houses, and I would make everybody squirm because I would go straight to the fridge when everybody says don't go to the fridge, I'd open it up on purpose. But um, and then I mean, I guess to your point is I don't have to go anywhere now. I can buy all of my land from my computer in my office at the house. I don't have to be anywhere at any one point in time. So that's been pretty nice.
So how do you identify what parcels and what is it that you're looking for? I mean, for our viewers out there, what is it? What's your buy box?
I get asked that a lot because a lot of people want to bring me opportunities, and I don't really have one, to be honest. I'm in two markets. I'm in Northern Arizona and here in Alaska. Although my preferred strategy is owner finance, of course, I'll sell cash. So I'll look at just about anything. I do and have done, I do like and have done entitlements and subdivisions. So the parcel size doesn't matter to me. The access doesn't matter to me in some situations. Like I have bought a bunch of remote Alaskan properties here where the only way to access them is via float plane flying into a lake nearby, a jet boat running up the river, or a snow machine into the winter, or a 6x6 in the summer because a lot of it's boggy terrain out here. So access isn't that important to me. In the same token, I don't care about utilities in those situations. Obviously, those are all remote, dry areas where the occupant, if they decide to put a house, is going to have a dry cabin. So they won't have a well. They'll have a pit outhouse or a inferno toilet, and they'll either pump in or bring in their own water from a source around the property. As far as inner city, access is important to me. I don't like unique lots inner city, meaning I don't like flag lots. I don't like, unless I can get it super cheap, I don't like having to solve an easement or access issue inner city. And inner city, obviously, I prefer to have utilities depending on location. If it's an area known for septic and wells, then that's fine. Then that's just one of those things that's discovered in due diligence and everything's sold appropriately. Anyways, point being, I've bought land from 3,000 to a couple 100,000, and just depends on the exit strategy. I like to have multiple exit strategies. So, like, I have one under contract right now. I bought for 67,000 last what's week and a half now. When I first contracted it, I wanted to split it up into five different parcels, and the numbers penciled until I found one outline comp. I thought my point 0.9 acre parcels at the end would be worth about 55,000, give or take five. but I found one outlier at 30,000, and that outlier ruined my entire plan. But I had plenty of comps at current size, 4.5 acres, 4.63 acres. And so I scrapped, even after my pre-app with the borough, I scrapped the divide plan and went with the straight buy and sell. And so now, within 3 days of putting it on the MLS, I have it under contract at 175,000 when I contracted at 67. So I'm gonna make a little bit less than I would have splitting it had everything gone right. But if that one comp determined my exit, it chopped out was 125,000 dollars in potential profit that I was banking on underwrite when I was underwriting it, right? So I pivoted there. And so it's a long-winded explanation, but essentially I don't have a buy box. I've done enough land to see at a 30,000 foot view if it's something I want to do or move towards immediately. And again, um, I sorry, I got distracted by this comment down there. And and again, I have done. Oh, Sandra is my realtor on that property. Uh, she listed that one for me. Um, again, I've done enough in land to where I can look at a property and within a couple of minutes have a gut feeling if I want to move forward and or not. And so I just I don't know. It's kind of a bad example for somebody wanting to get into land, but I just take every parcel differently, right?
Yeah. So how do you find the off market deals? Are you pulling lists or you just, you
Yeah.
just
Um, yeah, so I do almost exclusively off-market marketing, and I do that via direct mail cold calling. I do have some realtors bringing me deals, though that is less these days as I've moved into land because land is a hard asset to learn effectively or properly. I guess I don't know the right term there, but so what I do is I pull all of my land list via Land Insights. It's a software that came out a couple of years ago. I build the list in there and do direct mail campaigns, and I'll target my specific areas based off of a few things. I have noticed, especially since being in Alaska, all of my sellers have been over 65 and out of state. And so moving forward, I like to keep my options open, so I will still do somewhat of a shotgun approach because there will be interstate and younger people that want to sell based off of inherited properties and a few other things. But if I wanted to be more sniper approach, those are the parameters I would use if I was somebody new. Um, and with my direct mail, I don't do postcards anymore. A lot of people go the postcard route because it's cheaper. It's substantially cheaper, but I do professional letters, number 10 envelopes with first class stamp. So it tends to be a little bit more pricier, but the conversion rate I have noticed is substantially higher.
yeah. Yeah, you probably get a lot better open rate and stuff on them for sure.
Do you
Yeah.
have any certain like do you ever do like as far as stamps go, anything special? Like are you picky about the stamps? Just curious.
No, if I depends, so I do two mailings. So if I have a big list up in the thousands, I'll use a mail service and it's, whatever they use. If I do it, I just go to post office and I grab the rolls and they're just the plain Jane, if you can see the rolls. Um, and then I like to a couple smaller niche lists I do myself. So I will use very colorful envelopes. Is that showing up? So I don't use white envelopes. I make them very colorful and popping. And if I'm using a mail service and they have the option to do handwritten font on the envelope, I will choose that as the additional charge. It's typically like 10 cents more an envelope, but it looks pretty good. Or I did actually figure out a way to get my handwriting into Microsoft Word. And so if I'm printing on the envelope, I'll use a handwritten font versus a standard font.
That we talk to our listeners and the people in our groups and people that we mentor and different things, and it's always the simplest things.
Mm.
that tend to work the best. And we preach that a lot is, I used to send out probates same way. I would hand address,
Mhm.
stamp and had great conversion rates. So it doesn't have to be anything overly fancy.
Well, I
But
mean, like everybody right now is the biggest topic right now is AI, and I'll see daily dozens of comments in various real estate groups is who's using AI and how are you using it? Sure, at some point, a strategy will be developed where AI is an effective acquisition method, but right now, there's a lot of laws that are limiting your ability to even bother with AI on the inbound leads. If you do uh, any texting, you risk TCPA violations and 10DLC violations. RVMs are now illegal. Anything with a bot or AI component is illegal based off the new TCPA laws back last year. A lot of people argue that because we are not soliciting for a sales aspect, that we are compliant as acquisitions in the real estate, which I would argue are somewhat true. But there's so much case law now in the texting realm that I don't bother texting, while there are some companies that are going like super heavy on texting right now, where if you get caught being out of compliance with texting, you can be fined up to $1,500 per text into what's the term for going in the past? They can pull your entire record and fine you $1,500 per text indefinitely. And so there's seven-figure lawsuits out there right now that people I know personally have been trapped in these lawsuits. And so I like to just keep it simple. I'm cold calling and I'm ensuring that they're not on the do not call list, and I'm doing direct mail. Some people have success with PPC and various other things, but it's just like I like to control what I market to. I like to know that the company I'm using isn't selling those leads to three other people in my market. I want to control my leads, and that's how I do it with direct mail.
I don't know if I missed this. I might have, but are you cold calling or do you have people cold calling for you?
A little bit of both. I have some VAs doing it, and I do cold calling if I have a very specific target, meaning I already have buyers looking for something specific, or there's an area or a property that I really, really want, and I'll do that calling myself.
now I had another question for you too. On
Mhm.
your, and this may help me a little on some of this, just to
Sure.
hear, how are you doing your payment structure as far as how are you collecting payments? Do you do it automated? What type of system are you using? Are you using, a bank or?
I use Terra Notes. It is a super cheap self-servicing third-party program, and so I just set up and record the appropriate documents in there, and they service that merchant aspect of it. Um, it's a little bit more difficult if you're wrapping a note. There's a two-step process there, but for the most part, all end buyers are given a link to Terra Notes and make payment through there. And it calculates and does the AM schedule for you. So it shows off remainder loan balance. It notifies them and me if they're late. It will auto input that late fee if they are actually late. It'll show notice of default if they go beyond, I think I have 10 or 15 days right now, but nonetheless, it does all of that for a pretty nominal charge. It used to be free and then it went to $5. And now I think I'm getting charged $40 a month, but it's dirt cheap. I've used other big servicing companies and I have been completely unhappy with them. So,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and using something like that, years ago I used to, service it myself and do all the
mm,
collections and do all that stuff. And once I went to more of an automated system, once it became available, I noticed that my defaults were a lot less,
yeah,
and I got paid on time, and I collected late fees.
right,
Whereas when I was doing it myself, I couldn't get the late fees, and so
right. And
yeah,
if
so
you're not a good bookkeeper, you risk the inability to have a clean note to sell. So if at some point you want to sell your portfolio or a note here and there for a variety of reasons, you want a boat for the summer, nobody's going to buy a, a messy book for a particular note. So when you have a servicing company like that, that you can just export the PDF or Excel, it's super easy.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And so on your notes, do you list all of your properties for sale, or do you sell some on your own, or
Variety. It depends on various reasons. As you noticed earlier, Sandra's on here, my realtor that
yeah,
has that big property.
yeah, she's listening.
Um, yeah. And depending on the price point, so the answer is really convoluted. So in Arizona, if it's in my MLS boundaries, I'll list it. I'm a broker in Arizona. If it's outside of those boundaries and I have to join a new MLS, I'll just bring on a broker in that area. In this area, I'm not broker yet. So depending on price point, like this expensive one I gave to Sandra and the cheaper ones I'll put on Facebook Marketplace. I'll for sale by owner on Zillow or Realtor. But a lot of my for sale by owners are actually sold on Facebook. It's been a good source for those buyers. Anyways, long answer for that one, but
No, yeah, definitely. I've had a lot of success on Facebook as well, selling,
yeah,
owner finance properties and homes and different things. So
yeah.
yeah, it's definitely strong.
You deal with a lot of tire kickers as with anything sold on Facebook, but for the most part, if you price it right, they go quick. That's another thing I like to point out is there's a lot of gurus that are like in any aspect of real estate, it's what's market value, put it there, maybe put a little high, try to get a high offer. If you want it sold and you want to turn your capital quicker, price it below everybody else. Turn your product, move on, get to the next one. And then there's a lot of land gurus right now teaching newbies to go find other land investors to sell them the land at market value. Is like, what's the benefit of that? Why would another real estate investor buy at market value to do what with? So the strategies a lot of these people are teaching are flawed. If you want to wholesale, build an incredible retail buyer buy list. And if you're doing infill development lots, make sure that you're talking to every single builder in that market. Cold call them. Build a go to the local or state builders association and join that group. Go to all the networking events. But moreover, go into the parcel viewer and find every single property that's being built and call them. What do you want? What do you need? I can get you that exact product cheaper than going to the MLS and talking to your realtor. And we can get it done quicker. So what do you want? I got it.
Yeah, no doubt. Another thing that kind of interests me is selling property, buying property in Alaska. So,
Mhm.
I'm an
Yeah.
outdoorsman myself, love to hunt, fish. So Alaska kind of, I'm like a kid,
Yeah. It was when I moved out here, I didn't honestly, frankly, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I moved out here to be out in the wilderness. That's all I cared about. And so I wanted to, one of the dreams growing up was I wanted to own property in Alaska and I wanted the Alaskan cabin dream. Most people have heard of Dick Proenneke. He was one of the leading people in the I think 70s. He built that cabin. He got into his 40s. He was tired of the day-to-day monotony of the rat race, and he built this cabin way out there. And he self-filmed, and it was one of the very first documentaries of or biographies of being out in the Alaskan woods. And so I wanted to provide that dream to all the guys like you and I down in lower 48 that doesn't necessarily have a pile of cash to convince their wife to do this with them. And so I wanted to buy a bunch of these properties and be able to owner finance that dream to people. And that in the beginning, I was like, I have no idea if that's a work. I don't know what these things, what these properties are bought and sold for. It's a non-disclosure state. So there was a lot of ifs when I moved here. And so I just started buying property and seeing what was going to go, what was happening. And it turns out I was right. I'm able to sell these cool properties to, and actually a lot of these properties being sold to locals. But the dream was to be able to provide that to guys like us that wanted to, even if we went out every 5 years, now they have this cool dream that was financed at a decent price, and then they have to convince their spouse that they had to drop 50 or $100,000 on something they won't see but once or twice every handful of years, right?
Right. Yeah, and I've watched that biography too.
Yeah,
By the
it's
way.
pretty cool. Yeah, I love. It's I have the not CDs, DVDs of that one. It's a really cool one. I like to rewatch it all the time.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Travis, go ahead. I know you got a question.
No, I'm just talking about DVDs, man. I miss DVDs,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. But no, so you're doing cold calling, you're doing mail. Are you having to reach a lot of people right now? How's that look? How much mail are you sending? How many calls are you making on average?
When I first moved out here, I did a very big blast. It's not actually that big. I mailed about 7,000 people when I moved out here, just to see where and what the opportunities were. And that's kind of how I knew very quickly that my remote remote property interests were valid. I had a ton of phone calls to sell those remote properties. And some would say, well, that would mean that nobody wants to be out there. No, those properties transact a lot, but you have to, again, price them right. And there's certain factors to those remote properties that make them more desirable to others. You have to think like your end buyer. An end buyer in remote Alaska wants peace and tranquility, but they want access to whatever their activity is, whether that's snow machine, so you want to be next to a big mountain. If they're fishing, you want to be next to a river or lake. And if they're camping or hunting, you want to be in a hunting area. And so when I'm looking, I am a little bit more picky these days. In the beginning, when I first started buying, I was like, oh, that's cheap, that's cheap, that's cheap. I was just buying. They're selling, but I'm moving forward, I'll be a little bit more picky. I forgot your question. That happens a lot to me.
Just are you having to do a lot of like a lot of
Okay.
calls right now?
Okay, so I mailed 7,000-ish people and I bought four properties out of that one. And I had, I have to look at my KPIs, somewhere around 53 text, emails, and calls off that one. In my Alaska markets, I know the five neighborhoods I want to be in. So those are very niche mail list. One of them being, and it's a very unique area. I won't say online, but I mail 73 people every single month, and about once a quarter I'll buy one, and I'm able to bring that list smaller and smaller down. Same thing for the other four neighborhoods. There's roughly 450 properties in there, and I mail those every single month as well. So I've niched down my direct mail marketing is what I'm getting at.
That's the way to do it, man.
Yeah.
Definitely right now. I mean, because I love mail. Mail has a long shelf life. Every year we do deals from mail we sent out a year or two ago. But with, problems with the USPS, they're having all these issues. The problems start at the top, it comes to the bottom, our mail's late. So if you can, I think what you're doing is smart, very little mail, but the mail that you're sending is impacting, so that's great, man.
Yeah, and if there's a particular property that I really, really want, I can't reach it without getting it, taking everything off. But I do what I call special mailers. Basically, it certainly does not look like advertisement or soliciting in any form or fashion. So in some markets, some neighborhoods, I will mail a contract with the number on there because I know exactly what I want to buy at and what I can sell at. So I'll send out 9 by 11 envelopes. And in some areas, some properties that I really, really want, I'll send, I think, 6 by 9 padded envelopes. And so it looks like somebody's receiving something they bought. And so they'll open it up and it'll be a padded envelope with my letter in it. So
That's
I try to
gold.
I try to get as creative as I can.
That's gold. I love that. I want to try that myself.
Yeah.
That's
It tends to be a little more expensive because the 9 by 11s, you got to put two stamps and a 3-cent stamp on there to get it out. And so, yeah, just a little creative.
No, I think that's what this is, right? You gotta after a while you have to get creative. Like
Yeah.
you can go at the first, just kind of what you said, just kind of just throwing it out there and but after a while, man, it's a lot of money to keep up with marketing. It starts to become a job just to run your marketing. And
Yeah.
I think if you can just keep that low, I love it, man. That's
Yeah.
all. So what about the call? So you're only like for you calling, it has to be something specific, right?
Mhm.
Like
Right.
you're doing the call, you ran into something gold, pretty
Hmm?
much. You want to go after it yourself for the fun of it, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since Sandra's on here, she has a lot of buyers looking in very specific areas, and they're typically a very small area. So when I pull that list, it's a list of 5 to 30 people maybe, and so I'll call those specifically because I already know I have a buyer. I can control my exit when I know exactly what I need to do. Um, or if I find something really cool that I know is profitable, like this 5 acre, almost 5 acre parcel, now I know I want to target that particular size based off a couple different due diligence factors. But if I have a very defined target, yeah, I'll do cold calling myself.
That that's great that you and your agent have a great relationship and she's on the call. Like we had our agent on with us on a previous week and I think it's cool she's on here. I'm curious to know her experience like working with you and how it's
Mhm.
been working with a land investor. I don't know if she wants to comment or if she can turn on her video, but I am if sh she's welcome to speak is all I'm saying. She don't have
Mhm.
to. Um but I think it's really cool. I think it's cool and how like so you like to keep things kind of tight knit, right? And family oriented. Like your wife's involved, is that right?
Kind of, sort of. She
Yeah.
does all of the accounting and bookkeeping aspects of it.
Okay.
Um,
That's great. That's big help.
Yeah. And while Sandy's on here, one of the things I can't honestly, I was thinking the other day, I was like, how did I meet Sandy? It was probably, oh, it was at an Anchorage meetup with when Pace Morby came into town. But I like to work with a handful of realtors in my various markets because not all deals or not all leads turn into deals, but there's a deal there. There's money to be made. And so I've got about 7 realtors that I send referrals to, and Sandy's done the most action towards those. And so we've got a referral paying off here on the 17th with her. And it's just great because operating as an investor and knowing that you have a certain criteria within your buy box, your offer is not what a lot of people want to hear. But when you follow it up with a realtor that knows what they're doing, that is a um, a monetizable lead there, and you share the win with your realtor friends.
Yeah. I think that's a power move right there, having that on your side, so
Yeah.
that's awesome. So what's the goals for the rest of the year, man? Where do you want to be in the next it's like 90 days.
Hmm.
What's the next 90 days look like for Brandon? Is it simple?
Um, yeah. I was surprised to see that land is still selling in the winter months. We still have several feet of snow outside. It's getting warmer. We have 40s during the day now. But with spring and summer coming up and fall, those are the action months in any market, right? So my 30-day or 90-day goals is to acquire as much land as possible to have an incredible summer and fall and just build that land note portfolio as big as I can before the winter.
Yeah, that's great, man. Um, what about you, David? Do you have any other notes that you wanna touch on, or Brandon even? Is there anything you want to touch on, man? Like, is there anything else that we feel like we can give value to, right now in the times that we're in?
Mm. One of the things in the beginning when I wanted to get into land was it's a misunderstood niche. A lot of people think you can't make money in land. And I was convinced by several people that that was the case until I sold that very first COVID land parcel, right? And so when people get into real estate, they follow people like Pace Morby. I've met him a few times, super good dude. Um, but he teaches newbie strategies that I think are, and a lot of people are, um, what's the term? And I'm trying not to be rude, but the lowest barrier to entry, like wholesaling was that low barrier to entry in the beginning, right? And now it's bird dogging. But all of these things have very, uh, they're not explained in a way that is designed to be a long-term business. And so a lot of people will get into bird dogging because they presume that it's a low barrier to entry because there's little risk. You're connecting A and B, which is fine, but you can't control your profit that way. And the amount of legwork required to be a bird dog is astronomically high compared to what I do. I do half the work bird dogs do, arguably, and I probably make a little bit more money than they do. But it's because I treated it from the get-go like a business, and I learned the nuances of the land investing game immediately without taking the ignorant advice of others around me. And so I learned really quick that you don't necessarily need a guru. You need to you need to know your market, you need to know your exit, and you need to learn to market. And so when I first started doing all this, I took my wholesaling and flipping strategies and kind of molded it into my land game. And I was asked to speak several times in various masterminds on land. And so I created this a slideshow, which I eventually turned into a book that I published on Amazon. But within, shoot, how many pages is my book? In, and within 60 pages, I can teach you exactly what I do to build a giant land note portfolio in 60 pages. You can read this thing in an hour.
Can you show the book? Can you show it to us, or can they see it?
Oh, yeah, with my blurry background. It's called,
Dirty
come on,
money.
called Dirty. Why isn't it focusing? I'm retarded.
There it
Okay.
goes. There you go.
It's called Dirty Money and why land is the best kept secret in real estate. Because everybody's scared of it for one reason or the other. Um, and so I named it Dirty Money only because Dirt Rich was taken already by the other land guy. And so I wanted something that sounded a little bit controversial, like some sort of drug cartel. But anyways, in 60 pages, I can teach you how to do land, um, and essentially have you go from no money. And you probably should start with a couple $1,000, but essentially there's strategies in there with no money, and you can have your first deal within say 90 days. You know, that's not guaranteed, but you can make more in land than you can in just about any other single family strategy with a fraction of the stress. It's wildly crazy to me how less stress I deal with now than when I was flipping houses. I thought it was cool as cool can get when I was flipping 5, 8, 10 houses at once. I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna be a millionaire in no time. No, there's so many things goes wrong when you're flipping houses. It's so dumb how gurus pitch the flipping game. There's so many misconceptions out there. They think, it's a get rich quick, it's easy. There's so many things you got to know and do within the flipping game that are just completely ignored in social media. Um, but again, I forgot where I was going with that and my question that you asked me. But um, oh, where I wanted to insights and suggestions. So if you wanted to get in land, there's less risk, arguably. There's less stress. There's less capital intensive, and there's less competition. That was one of the things that I hated about wholesaling and flipping when I was started in Dallas, is I was one of 1,300 other people doing the same thing in my market, and I'd show up to a seller's kitchen table, and there was a stack foot high of postcards and letters. I was like, I'm not going to play the game of who can offer the highest dollar amount to the seller. Now, when somebody calls me or I call them, they've never been called. I am the first person they have considered selling to. It's easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Um, you know, to alleviate a lot of my risk, I do offer quite low, and that's just a game of land. It's generally speaking, most gurus teach 50 to 70%, 50 to 60%. I offer 30 to 50% out the gate because there's a lot of unknowns in the land world, and I hedge against that for not only for myself, but for my private lenders that lend on all of my properties. I ensure that my position in these properties are quite low, and that risk is quite limited.
Cool. Yeah. So if you're or one of our listeners out there, somebody watches this replay and they're just kind of getting going and they've been considering starting maybe buying some land. They've watched some videos and stuff. What would be some actionable steps you could kind of give a beginner? What would you do first, and how would you
Mm.
start to vet some deals and start looking at some property?
Um, okay, there's a lot. Well, first, you need to treat any entrepreneurial venture as a business from day one. So you need to be organized from day one. That's numero uno. And so that means knowing where and what softwares to use to pull your list and to track those leads. So a stout, robust CRM, and moreover, you just need to go after it. It's because land can be done anywhere in the world. A lot of people will want to try to go to a market that they think is cool or that is talked a lot about on social media. And so, right now, if you talk to any rental portfolio owners, Ohio is a hot topic, Georgia is a hot topic, Central Texas hot topic. All of these high rental markets are hot topics. Same thing with apartment syndications, Northern Arkansas, Georgia, Atlanta. Everybody's moving out of the Florida market in regards to condos and houses and short-term rentals. There's all these hot areas in every single niche. I would argue that ignoring all of that is more beneficial and operating in your backyard first, then going into where you think is cool because you can, if you're new to real estate, you need to be hands-on. You need to go look at it for a variety of reasons. You need to make sure that the aerial image, if it shows very dense trees, you want to ensure that the trees are still there before you buy it. You want to ensure utilities are on site if you need utilities to be able to wholesale to a developer. You want to ensure that the grade or topography of the property is what it is and it hasn't been adjusted in any form or fashion by a prior owner that Google Maps isn't showing you. And so, organized, proper softwares, and operating in your backyard first to learn it and then expanding. Um, because you in the beginning you do need to be hands-on. Now I don't go to anywhere. I buy land in Arizona and I buy these remote parcels. I don't ever go to them because I've seen enough desktop due diligence to know if my play is the right play. Um, and then decide how you want to operate. Do you want to wholesale? If so, you need to build that buyer's list now, or do you want to buy? And you got to determine if you've got the right capital, personal capital to do it, or go private money. I've done private money since day one. Only two times in the last 10 years have I ever used my own money. It's always been private money. Um, and I do that for a variety of reasons. It's the revolution or evolution of capital. I can move quicker knowing that I have essentially unlimited capital to buy what I want. And I buy at a steep enough discount that I don't care what I pay. My property that I bought and that Sandra's selling, effectively, I'll be in and out of that property in less than 3 months, hopefully, as long as these people don't bail. Typically, what I'll pay is a double-digit return with a minimum, and that minimum is typically double the full um, payment if it had gone to 6 months. Meaning, if I'm paying 12% and that 12% is $1,000 over 6 months, I'll pay 2,000. So it's annualized at a double-digit return. And so I don't care what I'm paying in my investors as long as it meets my return, right? And so sometimes I'm paying these people upwards of almost 30%. I don't care. I'm getting paid. I'm not missing an opportunity because I'm paying somebody what an outsider would consider unreasonable. It's it's how all businesses operate. And I made a post about this the other day. I'm kind of going on a tangent here. But a lot of people are like, I'm not paying somebody 10%, 12%, 14% to buy a property. But what do you think you're doing when you own a restaurant? You got 60, 70% of overheads and COGS. That's an expense. So if I'm paying a fraction of that to an investor, what do I care? I'm still paying to play like any other entrepreneur in any other space known to man. It's just a thing that I don't care about. Um, and same thing goes for if I happen to buy a property from wholesaler. I don't care if you're making $100 or $100,000. If that meets my buy box, I'm gonna buy it. And it's just like it's the cost of business, just like anything else.
I'm curious on your private money. Do the private money lenders, do they stay in place through the course of the note, or do you try to get them out?
Mix of both. It depends on the initial conversation with that investor, right? So if they want to be in that note long term, then I'll wrap it. So I go into that property knowing that I have to remove the due on sale, and I typically do an addendum that both lender and buyer sign that discloses that this is a wrap. If in some for some reason I default, buyer and lender they're allowed to communicate and limit risk that way. Um, but if I know my lender is a short-term lender, 6 months, then I ensure that I'm buying steep enough that the down payment from the end buyer clears that note, or it's close enough to where I'm like, it's not going to hurt me if I have to come to the closing table
Okay.
on the exit to clear that balance or underlying note.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, with because I use a lot of private money as well.
Mhm.
And, to get them out, I thought probably your down payment was getting pretty close to
Right.
getting them out of the property.
Yeah.
Cash
Sometimes
flow.
it barely covers it. Sometimes I get down payment that covers it and I get cash up front. So it's just that's the cool thing about notes in general is it's essentially the Wild West. Another thing, I'm no CPM, no attorney. I know a little bit, but we in the land business in regards to owner financing are we're we are we don't adhere to the same compliance regulations as people running owner finance businesses in the single family world, meaning Dodd-Frank and a variety of other things are a non-issue when dealing in land. Versus, and depending on the state, there's a lot of regulation, meaning you can owner finance one land, one house or one mobile home, one property without using RMLO, and some states require you to use an RMLO out the gate. And so I think that regulation is beneficial to the general public because of obvious reasons. You don't want to be selling something to somebody that can't afford it, and you put them in a tricky situation, but allows us to scale in limited expenses in that fashion as well. So the basic point is there's a lot of things in land business that are misunderstood, and a lot of people think they're risky for one reason or the other, but arguably less risk, less competition, less headache. Everything is just much easier.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Once you take the structure off of it, there's nothing like that you have to deal with.
Right.
It definitely does simplify things.
Yep.
And I feel like the land business is a good way to get into the real estate business,
Yeah.
you know, versus the flip business. That's I still flip houses and
Mm.
and do those things. And it's kind of funny because on the way over here, I'd been to a closing on a property that I just recently flipped, Travis and we were on the phone talking, and I was being a little disappointed by how everything worked out and the amount of profit that we made versus the amount of money that was spent versus the amount of time that I spent,
Yeah.
even though it was good, it just
Yeah.
wasn't what we had anticipated.
Right. Well, I mean, when it's good, it's good. I mean, I've made a bunch of money in flipping houses.
Yeah.
Um, and even when flipping houses, it's a 70% rule. The 70% rule is garbage. That's how you satisfy your hard money loans. In general, the 70% rule is complete and utter gibberish because it doesn't account for a lot of the unknowns, mainly in regards to is your ARV right? Probably wrong. Is your rehab right? Probably wrong. Your carry cost, all of your utilities, the unknowns. As soon as you mistakenly break a piece of drywall and you got to pull that section out, oh shit, there's dead rats in here. Now, where are all the rest of dead rats? Now you got to pull all the drywall out. There's just so many things in the flipping game that is unknown that make it seem appealing in the beginning, but once you've done a few, you're like, it's not that fun.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely, uh, it's definitely an apex business in the real estate business. It's there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And
very,
I was just over it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, it was just funny that we were having that conversation an hour ago.
Yeah. I mean, when it works, it works. It's wonderful, but everybody in the flipping game has had at least one property where they're like, why am I flipping houses again? This is pretty dumb.
Yeah, yeah,
But
definitely.
I mean, it was years before I decided to stop flipping houses because when it's good, it's good. And if one out of every 20 go bad, you're like, all right, I guess I can deal with that. But it was not only the risk of that, but it was just the constant driving from property to property because nobody does what they say they're going to do, and it just got old.
Yeah, Brandon, man, I'll tell you what, you gave a lot of value today, man. We really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Like you gave more than what I thought you would, man. You're a go-giver for sure. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you. We're running out of time. I just wanted to say that before we go, and I let David call us out. But now, before we go, how can people contact you, man? Like, how can people reach you directly if they can?
Facebook primarily.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Yeah, Facebook. I'm on
And
Instagram, but not very much, but at least not business wise. Facebook is where I do all of my business social media for the most part. And yeah.
and you have plug yourself in. You have like you have a community. You have Facebook groups, things like that. Like people can join your atmosphere, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. I do have a small Facebook group. I don't know how to grow Facebook groups, so it's not going anywhere quickly. But I do have a small group where I try to do a little bit of advice and um I got a little sidetracked and I was doing weekly Q&As similar to this. But yeah, I've got the Facebook group. I just renamed it. So let me think about it used to be Smart Investors, but now I changed it to Wholesaling Houses and Land or something like that. I can send you the link. Um, I have a podcast, which I told you beforehand that I have slacked on a little bit, the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast, where I interview similar to this, where I just bring on generally real estate investors, and I do like we did here. I want to learn what they're doing, see if I'm missing out, see if there's anything little golden nugget I can grab. You mentioned in the beginning, David, that I've got Operation Freedom. Operation Freedom is a nonprofit where we dig wells in Nigeria, and on dedication day, we provide medical aid and food to every single family in that community. And about 2 years ago, I bought a software company called Deal Manager Pro. It's a real estate investor CRM. There's a lot of tools and features in that CRM that are geared toward single family investors, meaning we've got a rehab calculator, a exit strategy analysis, a profit analyzer. We've got data, direct mail, skip tracing. We now have a dialer with automated follow-ups for SMS and emails. So that's been a fun little adventure for me. Um, so those are all the things that I do, and I'm happy to talk about any of them. I love talking about Operation Freedom. I'd love to be digging 100 wells a year. Um, so yeah, I mean, as you've noticed, I don't care about giving any details of any aspect of my business. It's not something that I hide like most people do. You can ask me anything. I'll show you HUD statements or whatever you want to prove that I know what the hell I'm doing. I will show you that I made $3,000 or $100,000. It doesn't matter to me. I'm an open book.
Awesome. Hey, we appreciate you, man, like for real. And that tells, just you coming on here and being on time and showing up, that's what it takes, right? So guys, just, that's the thing I was thinking before I go. Like, me and David's been doing these weekly for the past like almost 20 weeks now consistently. And, every week we show up and we've brought the same type of we do the same thing in real estate is we just show up. Like
Right.
if you guys just show up, keep showing up to the calls, keep showing up to for yourself. That's really what it takes. So we appreciate you, Brandon. And hopefully we can have you come back. Would you be open to that?
Yeah. Anytime. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. David, you want to lead us out here, man?
Yeah, Brandon, thanks again, man. I really appreciate you speaking direct with us and talking and just giving us the giving us everything. Like
Yeah.
you said, you didn't hold back and that's good stuff, man. You give some really good points there. And I think our viewers and people that watch our replay and people in our group and stuff that'll watch us tonight will get a lot of value from it. So I do appreciate it. And I appreciate Sandra checking in with us as well.
If
So,
she's, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of need to know what this guy's doing, so I figured I'd.
well, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody, and we've got a special announcement we wanted to announce today before we go. We have a new school channel, and we're just kind of getting started with it. And we have released our first deal analysis. It's a real deal. It's a deal that we done recently. We made $49,100 or $700 or something like that on a property. So if you would like that link, it's not available to the public yet. Just reach out to Travis or myself. Just DM us, deal breakdown, reach out to us, and we'll send that to you. And on behalf of Brandon, Travis, I appreciate you guys watching. And as always, learn it, execute it,